Awesome. Okay, so let's get started. The first agenda item is just to quickly review and approve minutes from September 26th. So hopefully everyone got a chance to look at those minutes. Did anyone have a question about the minutes or anything they wanted to see changed in the minutes?
Do we have any name spelling errors?
No, all the names were accurate that I noticed. As always, I really appreciate the detail of it, and it also helps me too as a chair to go back in and know exactly what we agreed to do. Okay, I didn't have anything that I thought needed to be changed. Did anyone else? Sorry, my dog.
I'm trying to get to the people who are in the waiting room, but I can't see them.
I got it.
Oh, hold on. I see them now. Okay. Got it. Okay.
Okay. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved.
I have a second.
Second. Is it okay for me to second?
I don't
My
see why
own.
not.
Okay, second.
Any further debate? All right, all in favor of the minutes?
All right.
Oh, actually, we agreed we have to do roll call from now on, right?
Oh, yeah, you have to do the individual. Yeah.
That was something I meant to do last time and didn't. I totally forgot that we agreed to do that because I meant to put an alphabetical list together so that we always knew in order to call people. And I need to do that before the next meeting. So just give me a second and I'll do it now.
Do you want me to do it? Do you want, I mean, I don't have it in order, but do you want me to call the thing? Because, well, I don't care.
Yes, I'm almost done. Okay, all right, it's Ilana, yes? Okay, Ilana Aubrey,
Yes.
Helene Busby, Helene,
She's muted. I think she's
I'm
finished.
here. Yes.
Okay.
I accept
okay, Michael Falsetti,
Yes.
Mary Moriarty,
Yes.
Israel Rivera,
Yes.
and McGrath Smith, yes. All right, awesome. And thank you for that, Mary. Okay, 2 updates on past projects, including but not limited to looking at the MIFA mural scope of work and the JFK Memorial signage. We asked for, oh, thanks for telling us that, Helene. We asked MIFA to meet, Don Sanders, to coordinate with Megan Sealer, the director of Wisteria Hearst, and the restorer to come up with a set of terms by today. That was the piece that we were pushing for in terms of our deadline. And they were able to all coordinate and meet, and they were able to come up with terms that I want to share with you. Okay, can everyone see my screen? And is that large enough that folks can see the writing?
Yes.
Mostly? Okay. So it says, afternoon all, it was great speaking with you to review the progress and future plans for the Victory Theater murals. We wanted to summarize our discussions. Sorry. Please. Doug wanting to come in and then wanting to go out. My apologies. We wanted to summarize our discussions to ensure all parties are in agreement with what was reviewed so plans can move forward. 1, the proposed installation location at Wisteria Hearst will be an acceptable display location with the expected display period of 1 year. Evergreen acknowledges the space is not temperature controlled, with temps reaching into the 90s in the summer with high humidity. It is the dramatic fluctuations in temp and RH. I'm not sure what RH stands for. I'm guessing it has something to do with humidity. Or maybe they meant to say something else. On a regular basis, that is more of a concern which we feel can be avoided. 3, the top lunette section, that's the one that looks like this, of the Victory mural will be displayed in front of the bay window. Evergreen will need to stretch the artwork in the space for install. Curtains to black out the window will be required to prevent direct sunlight on the mural. 4, interpretive signage will be created to showcase the history, conservation, and future plans for the murals. This would include additional lighting of signage and possibly the mural. 5, proposed timeline for installation will be February 2023, staying on display for up to 1 year. The other panel sections will be stored by Evergreen under our current agreement. Evergreen will work in tandem with the theater to provide pricing for the display and any required monitoring of the artwork during display. We will also price a preliminary visit to confirm logistics of the installation. We will get this pulled together as soon as possible to keep things moving forward. Evergreen is continuing to progress with the treatments as planned and will provide updates as work progresses. Following any press release from our team, we're happy to assist with marketing with our social media website information. Okay, questions about the scope of work as it was shared there. Pieces that people are feeling really good about, questions people have, or things that you think are missing that we have to now go back and say, great, but also add a 6 that says this. I'm going to put it in the chat so folks can see it. Yes, Michael.
Madam Chairman, it looks fine. I don't think, did they have a budget figure for us to pay for this? I'm under the presumption that we're paying for this display.
So the display itself, we actually can't pay for because technically historical interpretation is not allowed. It has to be restoration of the artifact or building or asset itself. So it's something that MIFA is going to have to come up with out of their own funding, but they seem committed to doing. I think there's a few things I could see that need to be added, and one of them is effectively financial assurance that they have the funding that they need to be able to do their part of this in terms of we're not paying for the full restoration of it. I remember when Dawn came back last time, they said it looked like the bill to really do the work had effectively doubled. So, and it will be more money on top of it to come up with a display. So I do think that getting that financial assurance might make sense to make sure if we do our half, the rest of it can and will happen.
Do you have any idea when that may occur? The amount of money needed or the budget to do it? Is there a timeline? Did anybody talk about, to your knowledge?
Don Sanders said that it would cost about double what they had initially came to us to ask for, but that they had enough in their current accounts to be able to cover it. And they were willing to do it. But I do think it makes sense to ask for financial assurance. Yes, Amy.
Sorry.
Oh, sorry, I didn't see that. Amy and then Alana.
Okay, yeah, I was just wondering like what would constitute financial assurance, like what kinds of documents, that might be a good thing to be specific about so that I can, look out for that from them.
But I mean, we have asked for financial assurance in a number of cases related to housing in particular. Right, Amy? Like we've had to ask, like, prove to us you have your letters, right? That you have everything that you need in order to move forward. I know that's happened.
Yeah, well, that was like
I guess maybe that's
letter. Sometimes even that took a while, like in the case of wayfinders, that's what comes to my mind. But yeah, I'm just not sure like what we would need to see. Would we need to see an actual balance in an account or a letter? It's just a good thing to think about. Yeah.
Okay.
I'm also
possible to put it up to them too and say we just need assurance.
Because I don't know if just verbal assurance, like.
Oh no, it needs to be a document.
Yeah.
Whatever that document is. I think
I also have to look back to see what the deadline was for this project.
Well, that was part of my question, and this is sort of a learning curve question, but just in looking at the minutes from the last meeting, the deadline that was noted for the murals and the information that we seem to be discussing was October 3rd, correct?
So the idea is that we voted on, to my understanding, was that by this meeting we had to have the terms that the committee could discuss. And so the goal that I have right now is for us to discuss it and come back with here, yes, but here's the shift that we need, or add the following 3 pieces so we can move forward. Because remember, until we have this scope of work detailed out, we have nothing to present to the city council, and
Right.
Israel will have to present this to the city council to say, here's the shift in the scope of work. Will you vote to approve it?
Got it. Okay, thank you, Meg.
The other piece is it's really clear in this contract terms that Wisteria Hearst is willing to host it for a year. Right? And it's just the Lunette, and everything else will be stored at Evergreen. So that's just a piece to name. And are we comfortable with that? And just making sure, because the goal, of course, is that these are restored, but then kept in storage. So, Helene,
I think I'll feel really silly if that's like attached to it and I just didn't see it, but a budget for what all of those pieces would be and assurances. I don't know that you need like a bank account balance or something like that. Like, we're continuing to fund their program, and it's going to be a little different. And I think that's okay, because the community will have access to them when it seems like having them fully restored is going to take a while. So, that seems like perfect, not being the enemy of good. Sorry, of the good, not being the enemy of perfect, or whatever. But it's a contract. And so if they say that they have the money and this is what it is, then, there's consideration, because we're allowing them this variance. So it would be enforceable. I don't know that, I guess that's what I think, like in terms of going and getting other assurances. But it would be good to have
I don't think it's necessary.
as long as they sign the thing. And I think it's good to know, because if, it's an incredibly high amount, like $100,000 to do this installation, then I think we'd have more questions, just because like, where are you going to get that? But if it's less than, I think we're okay as a committee based on this, without getting a lot of financial documentation, as long as they say this is what it costs and we have it and we will do it, because that's a part of us continuing to work with them on this other, because the other option has been to cancel it. So it's an enforceable contract as is.
Okay. All right. So something just saying that we need an updated budget, and also that the Victory will agree to fund on their own the rest of the work.
I have a question. The piece they noted about the temperature and the humidity, what will they be doing to offset their concerns about that?
I think because it's only for a year, right? And I think that's part of it, is they're like, well, it's only for a year. It's only in the summer. If it was every day, the massive temperature fluctuation, it would be more harmful to the piece of work.
Mhm.
That was how I read that line in there, where it said we'd be more concerned if.
Well, they say it's going to be up for 1 year. So then it would be from, say they put it up in May, you'd have 4.5 months of pretty warm fluctuating temperatures and then very cold temperatures. So,
True. But at least based on what they've written there, they're saying the restorer is in support of this and is saying that it won't cause too much damage. They are also picked the piece that was in the best shape. So I think that's part of it.
okay.
But just to be clear, it means that after that year, all of it's in storage until the theater is restored. And there's nothing in the contract that would specify any access beyond the year. So it's not the project that we wanted initially. All right. So I'm wanting to make sure that we're okay with the shift in the scope of work before we give it to the city council. So are we okay?
Yep, sounds great. And I'm
Okay.
really glad we got those details. Yeah.
Yeah, me too. And I'll go back. The other last piece is that I'm in communication with Sean Gonzalez at the Board of Health around initially there was some issues with the Victory Theater their fine was levied against them for some work they wanted to have done on the building in terms of upkeep. This was part of something that was not specific to them, but they were doing for all of the buildings, right? As they were trying to make sure that folks were taking care of their buildings. So I just followed up with, has the Victory Theater done this due diligence at this point that you feel good about moving forward? Because what the city communicated at the time when we were drafting the contract a year ago, kind of before all the project scope of work really shifted, was that we had to include language in it around them paying the fine and responding to the proposed work. But then I also know that they did the window work they wanted them to do. I know they cleaned up the graffiti outside of the building. So I did just check back in, and I'm waiting to hear back around if anything has to be added in the contract around that, or if the building at this point has, MIFA's done its due diligence and we're good to go. But I'll make sure that we're good on that. Amy, your hand's up. You're muted, Amy. I can't hear you.
Sorry, yeah, I just wanted to confirm, they're still asking for 95,500.
Yeah.
Okay, so where are we at this point? Will the next step be for me to somehow write this up based on this document for city council?
Yeah.
Okay. I just want to say that I'm also a little concerned because there are, I think Alana raised that there is a huge temperature fluctuation, and it seems to be more extreme as time goes on, with the summer, reaching in the 90s. And the idea that it could cause some damage to the mural, it seems like kind of counter to the goal if they restore this panel and then it does get some damage based on where it's being displayed. I mean, it's like some of the money that's going toward it is towards its restoration is not going to keep it in the ideal shape that you would hope for, with the funding. So.
Mm-hmm. Well, I can always pass that on too, and I can ask if it's possible for the restorer to join a meeting coming up. Because I hear you. Okay. We're gonna move to other updates on past projects. There's no update on the JFK Memorial signage. It's sort of just been a point of frustration. We haven't been able to get the signage completed. Though I know that there has been some personal reasons for why the organizer, the St. Patrick's Day Parade Committee, has been having a difficult time getting it to be completed, but something we're still pushing for. Just so you know, as an update. Amy, is there anything else from any other past projects that you want to share before we move to the next agenda item?
Yeah, I'll just mention that I did finally hear from someone named Jeffrey Person for Wayfinders. So we have a contact there. And I think I shared this with you in a detailed email, Meg, that because of, COVID and prices rising, they actually need to apply for additional funding because just the costs of everything, the construction has risen. But they think they have a good chance of it. And there is still, the construction would begin before the deadline, as I recall him saying in the email, but it may not be completed by the deadline that we had given. So that's the update with them.
Oh, we'll just keep following up. And if that's the case, then they can come back and talk to us about it. I will say that, we've learned that housing projects can take a really long time. And in an economy like ours now, where there's just so much price inflation, we're really running into that. The other piece is that the Jackson Street first-time homebuyer projects, one of them was completed and was put up for sale this week, and the other one is pending. So both of them are going through very quickly, and they expect the other one will be up for sale. These, of course, are by the next meeting. These, of course, are for families that have been vetted and have been working with them in a program for over a year at this point, where they've taken classes, where they have certainly put their skin in the game and the properties, etc. But really good news on that. Okay, we're going to move to updates on FY22 projects. We're going to start with the former O'Connell building, the Girls Inc. project, and I know Suzanne Parker is here to join us to give us an update on that.
Hi, everybody.
Hello. How are you doing?
I'm doing
Good, how
well.
are you?
I'm doing well. Yeah. So I guess I'd open it up. I know I had shared some photos or sent some photos to Megan of the work that's in progress. I'm not sure whether those have been shared with the committee or what are the big questions or just sort of an overall update. For those of you who've driven by the building, you can see there's a lot of activity and a lot happening. As far as the specific work funded by CPC, which again, thank you so much. It's going to be really, really helpful to have that funding is the masonry work. And so many of you, have you been able to see the pictures, Megan? I did. Okay.
Yes, I showed them at the last meeting.
Yeah, I think about 4 weeks ago, we have an on-site project team meeting every 2 weeks, and I think I might have just almost passed out because literally as they went around the building and they go below grade, they were finding more damage than they originally were anticipating. Anytime you're doing a renovation, that's going to happen. They say, you open up the wall or you dig up the dirt, and that's where you find more things that need to happen. And that was the case. So at one point, we literally, I called it the moat. They had to dig below grade to that, ground level of the masonry foundation work, pretty much all the way around the building. Right now, they're on the final section of the wall. I call it the boot, the old barn section, that wall that faces Linden Street. So it butts right on the neighbor. They sort of waited to do that part of it last. And we worked with the neighbors. They wanted to make sure they could enjoy their backyard through the summer. So that is happening this week, and that should kind of wrap up as far as that exterior masonry work there. But it's been overwhelming, quite frankly, to see all of it happening. But I love seeing the after pictures where you can see the bricks have been replaced, the things have been fixed. It's been great. They did find another issue. If you look at the garage, the old garage, there's a pillar in the middle. It actually has no footing underneath it. So that's actually a structural issue now that they're working on. They're going to have to go underneath the I don't know what you call that, where the front of the garage where people would drive in, but they have to go underneath now, dig under, pour a footing under that brick column, basically, and they have to shore it up. So there's some structural things that are happening around the masonry as well. But I think we're on target and on time, and it has increased the project originally when we were originally working with Western Builders, and it's Advanced Masonry they've been really great to work with. The total restoration for masonry now is actually 161,000, just over 161,000. And of that, through the end of September, so this is the requisition I've received through September, we have provided $130,000 worth of restoration on the masonry already. So there's still a balance of about $30,000 worth of work, which is really probably what's happening on that the Linden Street side. So.
Well, it's really fun watching the work happen.
Fun?
Well, from my perspective.
I have to say it really has been amazing to watch the crew. It's yeah, but again, at times also overwhelming. We did not anticipate the whole front portion all along that front to have to get opened up, and they did end up opening up. And what's been great is they've been, really cleaning out that old stone foundation that's under there, cleaning it out, applying waterproofing. So it's really prolonging the life of that building.
It's awesome. And the contract was circulated starting today. And I know that the next step is doing the preservation restriction for 25 years. So just moving forward with creating that. Any other questions for Suzanne? All right. Well, thank you so much for coming and giving us a brief update. We really appreciate it.
Great, and I'll reach out to Amy. I just have a question around just timing of funding and what I'm concerned about is obviously this work is happening now. We're paying for it now. Are we able to receive the funding after the work's been completed? I guess is really the question.
Yeah. Amy, do you have an immediate answer to that?
Yeah, I would think that as long as you can furnish, proof of payment and it's all within the scope of work for the contract, that then you can be, reimbursed.
Okay, great.
So you would just have, it's all in the contract. It's laid out that you send proof of your check and, the invoice, that you approve from the vendor so that I can then have you reimbursed.
Oh, thank you so much. Some funding source they would only do, once you get the approval, once you get the contract, then the work happens and you can get reimbursement. So that is great. So I will move forward with reaching out to our attorneys to draft up that preservation language. That's great. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much, Susan. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Sorry, looks like Amy has another question.
Just a quick question, Meg, did we decide that is it final that the preservation restrictions then are going to be filed with the Registry of Deeds as Attorney Degnan?
We're going to follow the process that she approved.
Okay,
Yeah.
So because I heard Suzanne say that her attorney is going to draft the PR.
Well, if we don't have to do that, if that's something that the committee is able to provide, but whatever I can do to help move it forward, we're willing to do.
Yeah, and unfortunately, we've just found that the timeline, I know that you want to get the project in terms of us being able to have the PR and then start, submitting invoices. I just know that it will move a lot faster if it's possible for your lawyer to draft it first and then it be approved by City Solicitor Degnan.
Okay.
I can send you a sample if I haven't already. I don't know if I've already
I
sent
think you
the
did
sample.
send a sample, Amy. Yeah, but if there's any other information, so we can go by that sample. Okay, that's great. Yeah, I really appreciate it.
And I'm not sure I fully understood your question about reimbursement, because maybe now that I'm here thinking of this, I guess we usually have done that before the PR is complete because that takes longer as long as you've signed off on the contract. So, okay, I think that's okay.
Oh, okay. So reimbursement can actually happen prior to the restriction being finalized. Is that what I'm hearing?
Well, I'm just thinking out loud about it. And I know that the PR takes longer, but in the contract, you did sign off saying that you would do a PR. So I guess the only thing is if the PR for whatever reason doesn't happen, the funds would have to be returned to the CPA account as specified in the contract.
I see. Okay.
You have to run that by Degnan and see what she says, because I don't know if we have an answer on paper for that.
Okay.
So I'll follow up with Degnan in an email and include both you, Amy, and you, Suzanne, and we'll go from there.
Great. Thank you.
Okay, awesome. All right, so thank you. We're gonna move on to, I don't have an update on Kennedy Park. And so we're gonna move to number 4. So in terms of the 2023 timeline for this process, historic projects have already submitted eligibility. They've been reviewed by Amy. They've been reviewed by Kathleen Degnan, who agreed that, looking at the eligibility forms in many cases gives you more questions than answers in terms of eligibility. Sometimes something that looks eligible, then when you get the full scope, you're like, oh, I don't know if this piece is actually, right? So we're still continuing to include Kathleen Degnan as we're going through this process and just kind of helping us kind of form that relationship with the city solicitor's office. And at this point, I know my thanks to Amy for doing a lot of communication with the Historic Commission and Alana and Paula. Like, there's a lot of people who are driving this forward right now, who are working with the applicants to be prepared to present at the Historic Commission's meeting this week, which is Wednesday, I believe. Yes, you're nodding. So at that meeting, all of our applicants who were given an initial sense of eligibility, with a caveat, Amy, I think, was very clear in her emails, like, at this point, we are thinking our project is probably eligible. This will take, there's more layers to eligibility is what we're now saying to historic applicants, and inviting them to come and, share materials with the Historic Commission ahead of time and then come and present, asking for a letter of significance, but also sharing the scope of work, especially now that we're not using the state level Mass Historic Commission as a bypass, as not a bypass, as a
Filter.
as a vetter, right? For will this stand up to a PR? You let us know, and then we'll hold it. Now that we're doing it in-house, there's this extra layer of, then we need to review the scope of work and make sure that we feel good about giving a PR to this property. So all the applicants are going to be presenting this Wednesday at the Historic Commission. All of you are welcome to attend as audience members, people who are taking in the information. I know that if I can't attend, I will definitely watch the recording afterwards. So I have a sense too of what's presented there and making sure it's the same as what's presented to us. And then the next step will be for us to communicate back to them. Another layer of that is connected to agenda item number 6, but I'll get to that more when we get there, around how we're going to respond back to applicants once we've heard from them in terms of, do we actually now really fully believe this project is eligible? Does your building have significance? And does a scope of work fit underneath the Department of the Interior's standards for restoration or preservation? And can this project move forward? So lots going on this week with historic applicants. Amy, do you want to mention anything about the timeline for the other applicants before we go more into detail on historic?
Sure. I'll just say that the eligibility forms for the open and recreational space are due November 1st at 4 p.m. And I did send an email out to department heads and try to get the word out on Facebook. I haven't received anything yet, but there's still time for people to submit that. And in terms of the historic, they were told, the ones that did require a letter of historic significance, they were also sent the full application with understanding that they would have to also include that letter of historic significance to be eligible.
Awesome. Okay. Paula and Alana, do you want to share anything else about this process or anything else we should know from your end that you're thinking about?
Well, I have been having conversation with Attorney Deegan too about projects that will come forward, because again, it's not all that black and white, and there are a lot of details. So partially, our goal and my goal this year is to give you at least 2 or 3 paragraph letters that explain why something is historically significant and not just a one-liner. And I think we have some situation coming up to us where the historical significance might be contingent to other factors, so it's complicated. But we are working at giving you materials that you can use.
Yes, I love that. And just to reiterate what Paula is saying, like in the previous cycles, people have gone to the Historic Commission and said, I need a letter of significance. They sort of pitched their project. And the letter that we got was this letter that said, yes, they have historic significance. We've approved that. And that was the letter. Whereas Paula's talking now about it really being crafted as a narrative with here's why it's significant. Here's the historic significance of this building. We're going to give you that information so that you have it, because sometimes you might have 6 projects. They're all significant, but maybe some should be funded more than others because they're more of a priority, or maybe they're more historically significant or important to the community than others. So I love that you're willing to give us more information, because I think it'll really help us when we're having to make tough decisions.
And the other thing, we have been looking to really put the responsibility on the applicants, meaning that we will not do the research for them. So a lot of the material that you refer to as a narrative will come to you as the applicants submit it to us. And that is because also I think it's important, because if they apply for these grants, they have to understand that at the very core of CPA is for them they're taking an historic building And in some way, by restoring it the proper way, they give it back in some way to the community. So I believe that for them to just do the research to prove that their building is historically significant, then it will influence how they restore it and what they need to do. So I think it's all positive.
I'd just like to add that in some of the folks that have come before the Historic Commission, not necessarily related to CPA, but I found that folks who have purchased some of the really significantly historic buildings often have lawyers, and the amount of information that they're able to bring to the table when they have more people attached to the project. I've just noticed over time that the thoroughness, the detail, that they are really interested, at least conveying that they have an interest in the history of the building, and they've gone to quite an extent to provide that history in their materials. So it kind of runs the gamut, of course.
Yeah. Well, I think, this is our 5th funding round, and every year we're getting better about having tighter processes, or just knowing what our policies are, or even last year, right? Like having Sign Now, where we're moving contracts electronically, huge, makes a really big difference, right? Or learning how to do PRs for the first time. And we tried the process one way and realized it didn't work, needed to modify, right? So I think all of that just, it takes time. Helene, I see your hand up.
Yeah, thank you. I think all of that sounds great. And I think doing that vetting more towards the beginning of the process is really great. And I know that is a lot of work, but hopefully that, puts people in position. Well, we're looking at the proposals, they're really refined and ready to go once we approve them. I think the only thing I'm just wondering is, because this CPC is supposed to make these decisions, and as a lawyer, my opinion isn't always like, well, I think it's pretty good, but it's just like there can be differences of opinion and back and forth. I just want to make sure that things just like, if there is sort of some question of, Amy seems to really think this fits, but we're getting an answer it maybe doesn't, that we would have a chance to weigh in and ask questions as a committee. I just don't want this process to off-road things that actually really we care about and would fight for. And so I just kind of want to put that out there. And I think this is a really great approach. So I commend it and I appreciate it. And I know it's a lot of work, but just that, if there is kind of something that feels like really on the bubble, I would like it brought to the committee, even if, there's that.
Yeah, I love that, Helene. I think you're totally on point for thinking that. And I think, Paola, I wonder if it's possible, or maybe you already have invited Kathy Degnan to attend the.
I already did.
Okay. And if she can attend, then she can watch it on video. And as we're going to talk about next with the historic consultant potentially that we might hire, I think it's making clear where things are really clear and where they're not. I think sometimes too, and us being okay with sitting a little bit in that. And then when we're having those final conversations, we can always invite Kathy Degnan to one of our meetings. I think it's important for me having, and maybe it's a little bit of just the trauma of last year for me. I attended so many meetings where I was trying to argue and understand what was happening. And we had sort of never been under the microscope in that way before. So I think you're right, Helene, it's striking the right balance of let's bring in the legal department and make sure that they really are weighing in and understanding the decisions that we're making as a committee so that nothing comes out of nowhere for them. But also let's fight also for what we believe we really should be able to fund, but let's have that first round here versus that first round happening in the public eye on TV and in the newspaper and in city council meetings. Yeah. Okay. Anything else that we want to cover before we move on to number 5? Actually, I want to do number 6 first.
One quick thing that I may, the other thing that we're trying to do this year is to make it's not gonna be the commission opinion as the commissioner's opinion. We are gonna try to basically apply the standards that Mass Historic and the National Register gives to us to evaluate a building or an object or a structure, so that we really want to take the personal side out of it. And of course, as a chair, I will have to interpret some of that. But again, because of the long nights, and we just want to make sure that what we'll give to you is something that it's not personal.
I appreciate that, Paula. And also just thank you to the Historic Commission. Please extend our gratitude for all the work that they are doing in support of these projects, because it's a lot of work. And I feel like our committees are like, we're like becoming more and more bound together as we're trying to support historic preservation in the city. And it's been quite a lift, particularly this year. So thank you.
Welcome. Thank you.
I want to move us to the next agenda item, and we're actually going to skip 5 for now. We'll come back to it, and we're going to go right to 6 because it's connected to this next topic. So in the chat, I put in a copy of the proposal. This was sent to you by email, but I just wanted to put it there in case anyone wanted to immediately just kind of pull it up and have it while we were hearing from Daniel Koff. So this happened because, and we were talking to the Historic Commission, one of the pieces that would support them in this work was having a consultant come on with relevant experience, who could then generate a report that could then be shared back to the Historic Commission as well as to the City Solicitor's Office and us. So this is a proposal that we're going to review tonight, and then Daniel is here so that we can ask any questions. So really quickly, I'm just going to just read a relevant section of that proposal. And I'm just going to share in case folks want to see it.
I just have to let you know, Daniel Koff is actually the potential financial consultant.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I got the names.
Just wanted to make
My
sure you knew that.
apologies. Yes. Okay. My apologies. All right. I'm going to screen share so that you can see this proposal. And my apologies, Daniel. Okay. All right, so you're right, this is the financial one. Okay, my apologies. I pulled up the wrong letter. Too many letters. Let me pull it up. You sent it this afternoon, yes, Amy, or is it an earlier day? Oh, you sent the financial one.
Yeah, we got the financial one. We did not get the historic preservation consultant one.
My apologies, that should not have happened. Okay.
Do you want to wait till next meeting, Madam Chairman?
Unfortunately, like we have to address it tonight because the meeting is Wednesday, but they would do the work. All right, I'll start by sharing the CV and then I'll find the letter and share that. Okay, so the historic consultant proposal is from Tyler Kane, who is certainly connected to Holyoke and is actually planning to relocate to Holyoke. It is in the process, I think, of restoring a home here, and currently lives in New York. And this was the CV that was sent to us. I will make sure that this is sent on to the committee so that you have it. Certainly extensive experience in the field in terms of dealing with historic preservation and renovation. And then the proposed scope of work, which I will also find and put in the chat, is connected to the Historic Commission having this person who can be there for the meeting on Wednesday, and can then generate a report afterwards that can be used by the commission, legal, and by us. So we do need to vote on it tonight to see if this person can in fact be hired for the Wednesday meeting. Paula, do you know if you have easily within your grasp the proposal? I'll move to the financial one and then I'll come back.
I do. Do you want me to share screen?
I would love that if you don't mind.
No.
And thank you.
So, all right. So, where is share screen?
Megan, may I ask, would we be sharing this person with historic, or would we be hiring the person ourselves?
We would be hiring them in order to do this work connected to the projects that they're vetting for us. So it's work that's distinctly tied to CPA work.
So Megan, I have my hand raised just because as my question was close to that.
Mhm.
Right? And it's only like, because I think it makes sense, but just for clarification, in case it's asked at the council, it'll be coming out of CPA's funding to then be spent to work with both entities.
No, so effectively this person will, you can see it says virtual attendance at the Holyoke Historic Commission meetings to discuss the findings, questions, and responses. Oh, can you go back up to Paula? I'm just reading where it says DCP proposes. Okay, an hourly rate of $80 an hour based on an estimated required time or based on the following allocations. So 2 hours of virtual attendance at Wednesday's meeting where our projects are being proposed to the Historic Commission. And then 2 hours where they will then review the proposals provided to the CPAC and the Holyoke Historic Commission. And then 2 hours of preparing short reports outlining the findings and conclusions for each proposal to be completed by November 10th. With the consulting services set forth shall pay no more than $480. So $80 an hour for 6 hours of work for them to do work connected just to hearing our projects proposed on Wednesday at the Historic Commission.
I mean, like I said, I don't have an issue with any of that. I just to have an understanding and a grasp when asked. I know when it comes to some people's attention that obviously have it out for CPA, they might harp on certain factors and certain
Well,
things.
one piece of that is to refute that is we have nobody who's getting paid to help us with our work.
No, I agree.
We are completely voluntary on the Holyoke Historic Commission. So the idea that there's money floating around within our budget, we have repeatedly been asking for help. And so my hope is that it won't be an issue because they'll see that this is specific to the commission's need to get work done that is beyond our scope or within the scope of a professional who could take this on to help us.
Yeah, like I support it 110%. I've been saying something like this for a while. I just need to be able to have a framework and a background just in case question.
And all of this will go
Makes
out
it
of
easier
our
for me to defend.
administrative budget. So
Yeah.
all of this comes out of that 10% that we're allowed to use for administrative costs. So it's the same pocket of money that we paid Andrew out of as a financial consultant, for example.
And if you think about last year, how much we had to use Attorney Deegan for the various time that we had to come in front of City Council for project that there were opposition for, we probably is going to save us a lot of money in the long run for the city to just have a consultant.
So again, like those are all logical reasons that I agree with 110%, but sometimes common sense isn't so common. So like I just needed a foundation. Thank you though.
Thank you.
Yeah. It may help if the argument is similar to, we do this for financial consultants is the same process, for example. Michael, you have your hand up.
Madam Chairman, to understand this, we would hire this person annually, do the historical proposals for that particular year. So for example, this $500 is good for 2020. And he would
Yes,
take the
right.
proposals for 2023 and he would sift through them, analyze and say A1 or B or C or I don't know, in some way or form, characterize them as being good or not so good, but it would be done once a year. Is that correct?
I mean, the goal for sure is to do it this year, but if you'll remember too, like the committee formerly had Marco Crescentini, right, who was an engineer and had a lot of expertise in historic preservation and restoration on the ground. And I think as the commission membership has shifted, there's a feeling that it'd be good to have a consultant this year who has that kind of on the ground
I
experience.
just want to find out, is
Yeah.
this for one shot or is this going to be every meeting we're going to pay this guy 160 or more or whatever? This is going to be
No.
ongoing.
No,
We
because
have
this
a
only
budget, we do.
happens.
Is this going to be a
right.
one-shot deal or are we going to be hearing from this guy once a month?
No, because this only happens once a year.
All
In
right,
terms
so
of
we're going
our
to
project
so
being
the budget
vetted.
for this particular amount is for $500 for 2023. Is that correct?
Right. And my point is just that in future years, the commission, based on its membership, might come back and say, like for 2024, hey, we'd like to do it again for this meeting, or they might say, hey, we once again have the membership where it feels like this is not something that we have to outsource this year, like we feel good about it. I think it will depend on the year.
But
Go ahead.
how again, this particular document we have in front of us
It's just this year.
it is just for this one meeting on Wednesday night. That's what you're referring to.
Yes.
Okay, so it's $500 and that's it for
Yeah, it's for-
2023 for the approval of historical projects 2023. This is the $500.
For
Is that
480. For 480, but yes.
Okay, 480. Okay, I just wanted to be that sure. This is not an open-end contract that
No.
we can at our leisure call in this guy or by a vote of the hand of the committee, right? And and have this guy come back and come back and come back. I'm not too
No.
happy with that. I'll do it once.
Yeah.
For this, but that's pretty much it.
I'd just like to add, though, that I think the point, sorry, Izzy, I'd just like to add that I think the whole point of seeking out assistance is to offset additional costs if things need to be redone or sent back, or if somebody misses a deadline. I think consulting with somebody who has prior experience, particularly with gateway cities, and this person clearly has that breadth of experience. We don't really want to miss something crucial as part of this process. And you're right. Does it make sense year after year? Maybe not. But within this year, given all the changes on the Historic Commission that have been mentioned, we want the process to improve every year so that we get, more applicants. We get a sense that people really understand the purpose and value of this process. So to me, this seems like a way to prevent possible additional costs down the road when, something else comes up. So that's just my 2 cents.
All
So
right.
to understand you, Madam Chairman, to understand it correctly, this vote you want from us this evening is for $500 for a meeting Wednesday night for this man to interpret the historical and come to a conclusion as to what to fund or not, or what is the merits of one as opposed to another. That's what we're paying for. Madam Chairman, is that what we're paying for?
The question is, what will be it? I think the question is, Paula, what do you expect to see in the reports?
Okay, so it's $500. He will not only write the reports, but he will ask questions to the applicants on their presentation. And, I can share screen. By the way, can you see me or should I stop screen sharing?
No, I
we
can see you.
Okay, good. So hold on. So part of it, like we have a proposal for 106, 120 High Street. It's 25 pages. 6 or 7 pages are just on the windows. The back porches, the handicap ramps. It's very specialized. So it goes both ways. He'll give you a report. He'll also alert applicants, hey, you may not be able to do this. Because again, this consultation is very much related to the fact that they will have to sign a PR, preservation restriction. So
Fine.
all
And
of that.
that's what the consultant is going to do. That's his
Yes.
job. Is that
Yes,
correct?
that is his job.
Okay, so he's going to publish a finding and give it to you, and you'll act accordingly to his findings.
He'll
Um,
submit it to it'll be shared with us as well as
No,
historic and
let's-
also with
let's-
legal.
let's- No, I didn't say that. When he writes up the proposal, he's going to work with your committee to publish a report for us that we're going to read and evaluate what your consultant have come up with as a list of priorities for properties for us to consider funding based upon his study and your discussions with him and your vote as a committee. Those results would be passed on to us. Is that correct?
Well, so there is no proposal from the consultant. The proposal comes from the applicant. The consultant will review the proposals with the commission and the applicants on the 19th. After the review, he will write reports, short reports for each project, and he probably will outline things that may be problematic, things that may not be acceptable for CPA funding, things that might not be acceptable for a PR.
We're trying to figure out a process, Michael, where we don't repeat what happened last year.
Madam Chairman, I just want this clarified. He's
It's
going to write
okay.
up the.
What's your concern,
it.
Michael?
And you, which ones are, you prioritize the ones you have as your committee, and the results of those two things will be passed on to us. Is that correct?
Are you worried that they're gonna sort of taint the results by giving us what they want?
I'm just worrying, what if the consultant disagrees with the historical commission, or the historical commission disagrees with the law department? Where does it stop? I'm for it. I think there's a need for it, but I just want to make it clarified. This deal for $500, and what's going to be the of all this, and what with the product until we get it? I just want it clarified. That's all.
We're hiring a consultant to listen to them, not to disagree with them. Truly,
Well, consultants,
that's what we're doing.
we can disagree or not or agree. Consultants
That's
do
not
that.
our place. That's not our job. That is very, very technical work. We, when Attorney Deegan says, this is it, do what your lawyer says, our job was to find a highly professional consultant that can give good report. It's not our job to argue with him in any way.
So this report will be shared with us in the commission on the 10th of November, and we will be reviewing it at our meeting on the 14th. Okay, Mary, you have some questions?
Yes, how many proposals is he going to be involved with? All of them, or just the ones that have architectural aspects to them?
All of the historic projects that are presenting on Wednesday night.
So all of them. Is there a possibility that there will be more than Wednesday nights? And can there be late files or anything like that? Okay.
No.
And the next thing is, does it seem reasonable that that's enough time? 2 hours, 2 hours, 2 hours? Those are the three things that are listed.
I mean, there are
You don't know,
professionals.
you're not questioning.
They
Okay.
scoped out the
All right.
work, so I have to trust it.
Okay. Well, I'm with Michael as long as we get a published report.
And we can also immediately put it on our website as well. Israel?
I guess for me is so with a person, so they will not come in and elaborate on their findings to us. They'll just send us a report.
Yes.
I
mean, if it's something that you would like us to explore, I'm sure
I
we can.
think that I think that would be somewhat of a better avenue, just because if something happens like it happened last time, they're gonna want him to come forward and elaborate on his findings and the reason why he or she or whomever decided, or whatever process they did to help deem something historic versus not historic and all that stuff. Just because I know they're probably gonna not be like, oh, well, this is a report. Okay, where's the person that can we ask them questions? I would like to ask them questions. That's the type of thing. But I guess one of the things I wanted to say is
It also is going to become, I think, the basis of what Kathy Degnan will use
Right,
if she goes in front of the city council.
I kind of feel like that, not for nothing, but there should kind of be more than just like a $500 consultant position for this, because you're not always going to have someone on the commission that has historical expertise. And if they don't, and it's the same with the historic commission, everyone here is volunteers. We're all residents of Holyoke and we're giving our time. That doesn't guarantee that every one of us is going to be a historical buff or whatever you want to call it. So the idea should be that there should be someone guiding us with some sort of framework or understanding of where we're going with it so that we don't crash. Granted, we have to figure out how that would work in the future, but eventually it would make sense to have someone that could help Amy with that part of the process here, because that is not what we hired Amy to do, more or less. And she's been doing some of that in the past, trying to find resources that will make it easier for her and for us overall. And that's what's been a crazy headache over the last 3 or 4 years. Mimi made it easy. Mark made it easier. Some of us put in time and effort, but we're not always gonna have that. So, I mean, maybe not now, but one day we would have to entertain that anyways. So if it's for this fiscal year to do this, cool. For the next fiscal year, whatever, to do it again. But I think that the commission should be thinking in the long run how best to solve this situation. And maybe a consultant might be a Band-Aid for now, but in the future, I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
That was just what I kind of wanted to put out.
Okay. Well, it's 7:07. I was really hoping that we would get out early tonight. So I'm going to try to move us along if we can, hear from Paula, or hear from Michael and then Paula, and then we'll try to move this to a vote if we can. Not that we, won't always have sometimes some more conversation to have. And I think it's going to be important for us, even if we do go forward with working with Tyler Kane, for us to then talk afterwards about how the process went and if it suited our needs, if it suited the Historic Commission's needs, like what happened at the end of it, were the reports useful? I think we're going to have that conversation on how this process went. And if something needs to be changed, if it ever happens again, if we liked using the consultant, if we didn't. All right, Michael and then Paula.
Madam Chairman, for the sake of time on the committee, I'll just hold off my thoughts. I wish we could spend more time on this, but if we need a vote to be done, let's do it now and get it done. It's a work in progress. Let's try it as a one-shot deal. It's $500. We can afford it. For this one-shot deal, for Wednesday night's evening, let's get this guy on board, have him do its thing, and see how our story unfolds.
Thank you.
Is that a motion, Michael?
Yes. Well, Madam Chairman, do you want to open this up now to a motion or not?
Paula, is there anything else you want to add, or can we open it up? For motion?
So, and thank you for moving it forward. So just 2 things. Israel is correct. This is a Band-Aid for this year. For next year, we're planning to, we don't have a staff person with any historical preservation skills right now, which we are planning to rectify. Hopefully we'll have 1 or 2 architects on the commission by next year. And
I'm remembering back to Ben Murphy, right? Like he had a lot of chops. Ben Murphy.
Exactly. So basically we are looking to hire somebody like that. Actually, next month, I have been invited to go to Roger Williams University to talk to students in historical preservation with an emphasis on preservation law, to possibly pick 1 or 2 intern for the commission. So, but this is a Band-Aid, and I think it's a good thing for where we are right now, and it's an improvement from last year. So yes, I would so appreciate a vote of confidence. And it's not perfect. And also the last thing, this has nothing to do with historical significance. It has to do with the scope of work and the PR. Thank you.
All right. I'd like to make a motion for us to approve $480 to hire a historic consultant so that we can bring on Tyler Keene to do the work that has been proposed to us. Do I have a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? All right, we'll move to a roll call vote. Ilana Aubrey,
Yes.
Elaine Busby,
Yes.
Michael Falsetti,
Yes,
Meg McGrath Smith, yes, Mary Moriarty,
Yes.
Israel Rivera.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. All right, so we're gonna move on to a financial consultant. As many of you know, and no one more painfully than Amy Landau, we've been in need of a more robust support on a financial consultant for a while. Andrew McMahon, who was the first chair, who had really designed this whole system and kind of kept it going on his, off time, which he had none of, right, with between all of his myriad responsibilities in the city and at his jobs. It just became harder and harder, right, for Amy to get the support that she needed with the complicated system that CPA budgeting is, because you have to track everything based on what is, proposed for funding versus what's actual funding, right? Some come in way under, right, than others do, and everything has to be tracked to category because we have to make sure that 10% is being sent and some is encumbered, but then not spent, right? It's complicated. And Andrew was really doing a lot of that work. He's also the person that we relied on when we had to do things, for example, like we have to submit a budget, but our numbers from the state are not finalized on the timeline that the city needs. So for the municipal budget, we have to submit in the spring. Here's what we think our budget's going to be, but we may not find out from the state until the fall what our actual numbers are going to be. Then we have to submit an actual budget to the city council and get that approved as an amendment, right? So these are all the things that Andrew has done for us in the past. This past summer, as I told you before, he was just like, I've now, had this promotion at work. I have even more responsibility. I cannot continue doing this, even for the small amount of hours that he was doing. So I had reached out to Amy to ask her to reach out to her contacts from the CPA staffers group, which has Zoom monthly meetings, and to say, who is doing your budgetary work? And do you have someone who would want to take on our community as well, who already has experience and is willing to support us as a financial consultant to create a system that they can support with, but also hopefully over time becomes more simplified and able to be more user-friendly so that Amy also feels more comfortable and confident with it as well. So we think we found that person. Their information was sent to the committee and they're here tonight. So the proposal, bring that up and share screen. You've seen it before. Now you're seeing it for the correct time. Okay. So it says, dear members of the Holyoke Preservation Committee, I'm writing to formally propose my services as a financial consultant for the Holyoke Community Preservation Committee. They go on to detail their work for the city of Malden and their expertise and their willingness to work with us. And also their knowledge sort of growing up and living and working in Lawrence, their sort of understanding of what it means to live in a gate-based city and really do the work that our kinds of committees requires. So this proposal here talked about the kinds of things they would do for us, right? So reconciliation is a huge part of what the consultant we'd be excited to see them do. A monthly status of funds updates, be very excited about that. Preparing, estimating, monitoring, and adjusting as necessary the budget, working with the city treasurer, tax collector, city council, mayor's office in the state of Massachusetts on CPC related financial inquiries, preparing financial information presentations for any stakeholders, like for example, the city council might want an update, right, on our finances. Engaging with the CPC coordinator, which is Amy, on invoices and execution of funds, meeting with the coordinator and stakeholders, and then travel if necessary. Although most of the work, if not all, would be virtual, would be remote. Okay, so this is a sense of that work, with a sense of what they think it might be over the course of a year, for $5,312.50. This is based on doing 5 to 10 hours a week of work, with the understanding that there may be a little bit more hours upfront as they're getting to know our system and our current state of finances and getting a clearer picture, as they've sort of been going along, right, for a while, but not necessarily doing all the things that need to happen for us to be in a good financial place in terms of reporting, in terms of having a clear sense of it. Even this year, when we started, it was like, we know we have $800,000. We might have more. We just don't know. Right. I would love to get us to a place where we have way more financial clarity than that. All right. I want to pass it off to Daniel Koff. Thank you for joining us to explain a little bit about himself, and then I'll open it up for questions and answers.
Hi there. Thank you for this opportunity and for having me here at the CPC meeting. I have been working as a CPC coordinator in Malden, where I have recently done this work of reconciling the CPC's budget. We have developed a timeline, so we are aligning our budget with the city's estimated revenue and the state match, and we found ways to account for actual versus estimated revenue in our budgets. So all that is detailed in the proposal there. I think the formatting got a little wonky in the Google Doc, but I'm happy to share my screen if you want to see it as a PDF, or I can email that out to you all.
Yeah, that would be great.
Yeah, happy to take. Okay, well, I can share my screen now just to give you the overview. Let's see if we can find it. Here we go. So this provides maybe a clearer picture of the various deliverables that I can provide, the time that I would provide them, the rate, which varies slightly depending on the task, estimated hours and cost for each task. So the idea is that I would, if hired, I would work with you through January of this coming year, so the next few months, to reconcile the CPC's books. And I would only charge $40 an hour for that, because a lot of that would be meeting very closely with Amy and getting into the weeds of invoices and purchase orders. And then once we would set up the system, which I estimate would be about 20 hours at $40 an hour, then we could get into a groove of providing monthly reports. Looked like, similar to Malden, you work on your budget around February and March. So that's why I put in this bucket of work here, preparing your budget during that time frame. And typically there are financial presentations at the end of the spring, towards the end of the fiscal year. And then travel, if I would need to come out for a meeting, although my partner's family is based out of Chicopee and has deep roots in Holyoke. So I would hope to be in the area every so often and be happy to meet with Amy or you all when I'm in town anyway. So this proposal would go through the calendar year starting in November, lasting till November of 2023, and would cost up to around $5,300. Although I would bill, each month based on the tasks that were completed. This is just a kind of estimate of that would be a do not exceed amount. So happy to take any questions.
Michael.
Dan, who's going to start for the Patriots at quarterback this week?
That's a really good question. My consultation with Bill Belichick says it will not be Mac Jones.
Okay, I agree. Madam Chairman, I'd like to hire this guy right now. Enough said.
Israel, did you have your hand up?
The one concern I think for me is the time span. If it could just reflect by fiscal year, so that way we're on the same page of our city government, same page, just so that way, just for clarification purposes, I guess. Our fiscal year runs until the summer, right?
Yeah,
It starts, I think, August-ish, July-ish, and then ends June 30th.
Right. So technically,
and-
we have to vote based on funding that we can
Right.
only expend this year.
Until this year, and then come the next fiscal year, we would have to reapprove it again.
That's a really good point. Yeah, I'm happy to, on the back end, I have this broken out by month, so I'm happy to redo
Sure,
that.
no, that would be great.
Up to July 30th or June 30th, starting.
Yep.
I think it might still be possible, Israel, for us to take a vote tonight.
Yeah.
Up to a
I
certain
think-
amount of funding,
Yeah,
knowing it
I
would be
think
underneath it.
I think we'd be able to still vote, and then just with like amending it or saying that with the understanding of up to June 30th or whatnot, and then he comes back and just gives us whatever the numbers are.
Okay.
As long as
Any-
it's nothing different drastically, right?
Right. Well, I think too, if you looking at the document that Daniel sent, if we sort of quickly tally up the funding just from November to yeah, it's not as simple because some of it's monthly, I guess.
Right.
Yeah, I have a total here, which is 41,1250. Let me share my screen and show you how I got there. So I have it broken down by months, and I just changed it to 8 months, thinking if we start in October, so October, November, December, January, February. Well, it's not. No, November, December, January, February, March, April, May, June. So if we start in November, that'll be 8 months. So put in number of months
Right.
per hours.
Right.
Mm.
And landed at this total.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Any other questions or concerns or thoughts? Yeah, Helene?
I just have a thought that that it's great that you have this experience with CPA and CPCs, and just I was thinking of like if we were just trying to find somebody just kind of like with an ad in the newspaper that we would not be able to get that like level of expertise that's like very targeted about this niche thing. So so I would move that we vote on approving this proposal to hire Mr. Kopp.
Okay, so motions on the table to hire Daniel Koff. Helene, do you want to specify the proposed funding fee? What's in the chat?
Yeah.
Or-
I mean, I
Or
would-
maybe have it line up with the fiscal year.
Right, for the 8 months as was stated, as we discussed, so the November to June. And the amount is and I'm like completely going blind, everyone. So I don't have my readers near me, but it's 41. Okay, you guys read it. I am like so blind.
$4,112 and 50
Ridiculous.
so up to that amount.
Yes, that is all in my proposal, Mary. Hopefully that's not totally.
Up to what? Megan, can you tell me the
4,112.
figure?
Yes, 4,112.50.
Right, and up to, so that's based on,
Yes,
you know, if it were less, it's less, but
up to that amount. Okay, do I have a second?
Second,
Okay, any further discussion or debate? Okay, we're gonna move to a vote. Alana Aubrey,
Yes.
Helene Busby,
yes.
Michael Falsetti,
yes,
Mike McGrath Smith, yes, Mary Moriarty,
Yes.
Israel Rivera.
Yes. If you
Okay.
can hear me.
All right, yes, we can. All right, thank you so much, Daniel. We really appreciated you coming in, and I'm very excited to get to work with you and have a much clearer financial picture moving forward. And I'll reach out soon to figure out what we might be able to accomplish before the November meeting, and we'll go from there. Our November meeting, we will talk about at the end of the meeting, but so far, it has usually been the second
Third.
Monday. Oh, no, the
Third.
third Monday.
So that's right close to Thanksgiving, but that's all right.
That's November 15th, I believe.
Sorry,
21st.
21st of November.
Okay,
21st.
great.
All right, thank you so much, Danielle.
Thank
And
you very
thanks.
much. I look forward
Thank
Thank
to
you,
working with all.
Daniel. We really appreciate you stepping in.
Nice meeting you.
Nice meeting you all too. Take care.
You too.
Okay. Well, that's exciting. I love when we have issues and I feel like we're resolving them. Okay. The last one is consideration of Zoom hybrid or in-person only future meetings. The only thing I want to say about that is if you haven't yet done the survey I sent out, please do it. Just trying to get a sense of how we move forward because we have 3 possible pathways. And we hopefully will just clarify that over the next month or so. So we're moving forward with virtual only. Are we moving forward with hybrid? And then there's 2 types of hybrid, right? So planning board has been doing it's hybrid, but that's really for public participation, right? So all members are expected to attend in person unless there's direct illness. Whereas other boards have done hybrid as you attend however you like. So if you're virtual or if you're in person, it's up to you. So there's 2 different types of hybrid meetings in terms of how it affects the membership of the meeting. So I want a sense of that if we want to keep going forward, virtual only, or in some version of hybrid. So if you haven't finished the survey, please do so. At the next meeting, I will share screen, I'll show the survey results and we'll talk about it. And the last piece is just as we're going to be in some version where there is this Zoom world, just thanks everyone for having your cameras on and us trying to lean in and be present as much as we can in a weird virtual setting. As I said in my email to the committee through Amy, it's just that we sort of stumbled into this and we never really had conversations around what norms would even look like in a virtual meeting. We kind of just fell into having routines or patterns. And we had one meeting where over a majority of us were camera off. It just felt weird. And maybe that was more my perspective, but I just think it just didn't really feel like the committee was there. And some people I think were, kind of moving in and out and we're talking even if they were off camera, but it's just weird. Or it's just different to be in a world where you could be in a call where some people are present, some people aren't. And it's just worthy of us continuing to have conversations about what that looks like, I think, as we move forward. And I will say, I don't feel like I have skin in the game in terms of one option I'm trying to drive us to. I don't. I see pros and cons to all of them. So I'm interested to see what the committee thinks and we'll discuss it at the next meeting. Mary, you had your hand up? Is this in the other category? Because we're going to move to other.
No, I did not receive unless I erased it. I don't remember receiving a survey.
It was in the email that Amy sent out to the committee that just had the reminder for the invite. And then it had just the language of here's the survey to take. but I'll make sure it gets sent back out.
Mary, it was a link. It wasn't like a published piece. It was a link that
Okay.
you press on the link that Amy sent us, and you press that link and there's the survey. It wasn't like a complete page.
Okay, thank you.
Madam Chairman, our next meeting will be November 21st.
Yes.
Okay, and that's it.
21st at 6 p.m. And is there anything else under other, Amy, that you need to mention? The date was the only thing I had under other.
No, I don't really have anything at the moment.
Okay,
Means we end the meeting at 7:30.
make a motion, we adjourn.
I second.
Yay! Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
See you next week
Bye.
or next month.